Chris Hensley is a registered representative of Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a broker-dealer member of FINRA SIPC, investment advisor representative of Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and Houston First Financial Group are not affiliated.
The Houston Midtown chapter of the Society for Financial Awareness presents Money Matters with your host, Christopher Hensley.
Good morning. You're listening to Money Matters. I'm Chris Hensley. The time is now 10 a.m. Got a great show lined up for you today. When it comes to different titles of books, when you think of Master Your Debt, The Ultimate Guide to Student Loans, the Dictionary of Finance and Investment Terms, author Jordan Goodman has over 14 different books on finance. So we have Jordan joining us very, very shortly, really to do kind of a deep dive. I'm going to say pick his brain about different consumer finance topics. While we have the time with him today, we will do a deep dive into all of those great questions. Specifically, I'm interested in the student loan stuff because I saw quite a bit of good information by Jordan from that. So Jordan will be joining us very, very shortly. But as always, if you are a longtime listener, you know we always use the first few moments of the show just to tell you a little bit about what's going on here in the Gulf Coast and Houston area when it comes to financial literacy. And so what turned out to be a summer that you would think would be slow for us, this has been a busy week for us. In fact, I've had two seminars. One was out at the Houston Airport System with the Houston City of Houston. This was also co-sponsored by the Houston Metropolitan Federal Credit Union, and this one was on you and your credit. Now, it is, as all of our financial literacy talks and seminars are free, and most of them are open to the public, but this one is actually just for City of Houston employees. We also did one out at the Harris County Sheriff's Office today, and this one was a general financial literacy course. It wasn't just about credit, although we did talk about credit just a very little bit there. Both of those were well received, and hopefully we will be going out there the third quarter of this year, depending on what kind of feedback we get there. Also started something unique. We've got the Money Matters podcast separate from the live radio show here, but we also I've been asked to host a show on American Business TV. And so we've just done 3 installments of that so far. One was about the new changes to the potential rollback of Dodd-Frank. So kind of where politics and money meet. I was able to give some commentary on that. We've also had, when it comes to the financial services industry, we've had changes this year. In fact, this month, the beginning of this month, on the Department of Labor rulings when it comes to advisory services. So that clock started ticking for financial advisors, for broker-dealers, for registered investment advisors the beginning of this month, and they have until January of 2018 to become fully compliant with that law. So that was one of the things that we talked about. And then finally, I just recorded this one yesterday. It was about the COLAs, or cost of living adjustments on Social Security, which we will know in October of this year whether there's going to be a bump up in Social Security cost of living adjustment, but it has been forecasted about a 2.1% bump up based on current inflation. So we're seeing inflation kind of bump up there. With that, let's go ahead and reach out to our guest here, and let me go ahead and see if we can get Mr. Goodman on the phone.
All ready for you.
Jordan?
I'm all ready for Chris.
Hi, Jordan. This is Chris. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Okay. Do you hear any background noise right now?
I hear music.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to try to reach out to you one more time. So let me give you a call right back. It'll be just a second.
Okay. Okay, is that better?
It's so much better. The miracle of live radio. Oh, no, I can hear it again. Well, okay, so we are in the middle of a fund drive right now, so I think the studio phone line that we have is kind of picking up some stuff there. But, Jordan, thank you for joining us this morning here. And I mentioned to listeners that we were incredibly interested in hearing what you have to say after the 14 different books around finance that you've written. When it comes to titles like The Ultimate Guide to Student Loans, The Dictionary of Finance and Investment Terms, we really kind of want to do a deep dive there into some questions related to consumer finance.
Glad to do it.
Well, and let me share a little bit of your bio with listeners. I always like to tell a little bit about you from the bio. Now, this is not new to you. You've been for 40 years focused on one mission, to help Americans do better with their money. In a career spanning newspapers, magazines, books, radio, television, live events, you've got a website called www.moneyanswers.com. You've helped millions of people solve their financial problems and realize their financial dreams. But Jordan, would you be able to share something about yourself outside of that bio so we can get to know you just a little bit better?
Sure. Well, I mean, I've been doing this a long time. I just love to help people with all aspects of personal finance. And I take calls and emails and do speeches. So it's just a real passion. And all financial literacy is a real passion of mine itself.
Excellent. Well, I kind of want to dive right into it because I was looking at the different topics on the book, and I know the student loans for a lot of the millennials, heck, not even the millennials.
That's a big one. Yeah.
Not even the millennials. Anybody who's graduated. I work a lot with Baylor College of Medicine down here. And
yeah.
Exactly, and they'll have 6 figures of student loan debt. So let's kind of dive into that one right away.
Sure.
When it comes to student loans, taking control of your student loan debt using consolidation, refinancing, early payoff strategies. Can you give us a little bit about those strategies that you use?
So we've just finished the graduation season. We're in the middle of the graduation season. And the average person graduating 38,000 student loan debt. That's the average bit. And it's a huge burden. These are 30-year loans in many cases. So it just really burdens people a lot. Not only the kids are having a lot of student loans, but their parents are taking a lot of student loans. And even the grandparents are being asked to take on student loans these days because the kids and the grandkids are, kind of maxed out. Yes, as far as solutions, once you come out of college, here are some things you can do. You can consolidate them. The Federal Education Department has a consolidation program where you can combine all the different federal loans into one at the lowest possible interest rate. And I like to give useful generic websites that can help people actually implement these strategies as well. A place there would be called consolidatecollege.com. It can help you go through that whole consolidation program. That's the first thing. The second thing is you can there's what's called the income-based repayment program, the IBR program, which is if you qualify, you can pay the minimum on your student loans for 10 years, and after that, no matter how much you owe, the rest of it is forgiven. Now, to qualify for that, Chris, that means you have to work for the government, state, local, federal government of any kind. You have to work for the nonprofit sector, like a 501c3, charity, church, some kind of a nonprofit organization. And then there are specific things. For example, say you're a doctor going to work in an Indian reservation where they really need people, they can do that as well. So that's a way of getting your student loans forgiven after 10 years of paying for them. And the same website I just gave, consolidatecollege.com, can help you figure out that. And the third thing, exactly as you mentioned, people don't realize you can refinance your student loans, typically in the 2 to 3% range, instead of paying much higher rates, both on federal loans, subsidized and unsubsidized, and private loans are even more expensive. A place to help them do that is called Credible, credible.com/money answers, and they have a bunch of different places that can help you refinance those student loans. So you now have one payment at a lower interest rate instead of many payments at higher rates. So those are three things they can do with this huge amount of student loan burden these days.
So just to kind of unpack what you just said there, because it was a lot of information. Number one, I shouldn't draw attention to this, but the fact that the music stopped playing in the background, now I can listen.
That helped.
That's a good thing. But really, that you did say quite a bit right there. You talked about consolidating loans. You gave us a website, consolidationcollege.com. You talked
Consolidate College.
Consolidatecollege.com. Consolidatecollege.com as a resource for listeners. You talked a little bit about the forgiveness program. So depending on what you do for a living, what sector of the that you've entered into, you might be eligible for some of these forgiveness programs. I know people tend to forget about that, and so that may be an option. And then the third one was the Credible.
Credible.com.
Credible.com.
/money answers. They know it's me that way. You actually get a little bit off your first payment. They have about 5 or 6 different lenders who will refinance your student loans, and you pick what's the best deal for you, and then you can refinance them. So now you'll have one payment at 2 to 3% instead of 10 payments at different interest rates, much higher rates. So it'll help you consolidate them at a lower rate.
So in the past, where this might not have been such for some people it's a good tool, for some people it hasn't. Now that we're seeing interest rates start going back up, and student loans being if there is a tie-in with the interest rate there, this might be a good time to take a look. you never know.
Well, that's right, because they're tied to the prime rate, and the Fed has already raised rates 3 times this year, likely to raise them at least one more time this year. They said they're going to raise rates 3 more times in 2018.
Right.
So if your student loan is tied to the prime rate, it's already gone up, and it's going to go up even more. So you're right. This is a good time to refinance that, and then you lock it in the 2 to 3% range.
Well, since we're talking about loans here and interest rates, let's kind of stick with that topic here, but kind of sidestep into when you're going to get a car. Let's say you go get a car loan and you're trying to get the best deal. What's the best? You hear about leasing a car, you hear about buying a car. Can you give us some insight into that?
There are pros and cons of buying versus leasing cars. The pros of buying a car is after you've paid it off, you don't have to have any payments anymore. And you can drive it to the ground, 10,000 miles a year or 100,000 miles, whatever it may be. I know you drive a lot in Texas, so that may make sense. The disadvantage of buying a car is you're putting money into a depreciating asset. And I always like to say, buy things that appreciate, lease things that depreciate. And you know a car is going to go down. You may not know how fast, but the moment you've driven it off the dealer's lot, it just depreciated by like $5,000 or whatever it may be. So your loan on your car is going to be underwater because the value of the car falls far faster than the loan gets paid off, right? So that's the disadvantage of buying. The advantage of leasing is you don't take the depreciation hit. You're not buying something that's going down in value. In effect, you're renting it, and then after 3 or 3.5 years, whatever it may be, you can get another one. And the last 5 cars I've got, Chris, I've leased. Because it allows you, I don't have money tied up in the car, and then after 3 years, I typically do it for like 39 months, I get a new car with all the latest technology. And the lease payments are typically lower than the loan payments, and it works. Now, if you have a huge amount of mileage, leasing is not going to work, because typically it's like 15,000 miles a year is the limit on that. So if you have a huge amount of mileage, then that wouldn't. So in some circumstances, Chris, the best solution, say you have 2 cars, buy one and drive it into the ground for 300,000 miles, whatever.
Exactly.
The other one, and then that one used for shorter term, shorter-term kind of commuting or whatever it may be. And that way you've got to get the best of both worlds.
Well,
as far as getting the best deal, the place that I use is what's called carq.com, C-A-R, letter Q.com. That's an independent place that'll help you get the best deal on either buying or purchasing or leasing a car. Because most people aren't very good at it. You know, you buy a car, or lease a car every 3 years, every 5 years, every 7 years. The car dealers are doing this all day. So you're outnumbered from the beginning. So
Absolutely.
I'd like somebody on my side who knows how to play the game. And carq.com is a website that can help people do that. And once they've got a car loan, a lot of people took on bigger car loans they could really afford. The delinquency and default rate has gone up dramatically. I think it's doubled in the last year on car loans because people took on bigger cars and bigger payments at higher interest rates than they can afford. So a way to refinance an existing car loan, people don't realize you can do that, is a free website called myloangen.com, myloangen.com. You put in your current payment, your how many more months you have to go, the value of the car, and then it says, okay, you can change your maturity on the car loan, say from 3 years to, say, 6 years, and that will lower your payment to make it more affordable. You do not want the repo man coming in the middle of the night and taking your car away because you make your payment. So this will be a way of avoiding that. And that's really been a big problem. A lot of people have been having their cars repossessed because they just took on bigger payments than they can afford. So that'll help people. Again, myloangen.com is a way to refinance your car loan. So hopefully that'll be helpful, too.
Absolutely. And I know, yes, if your car becomes repoed, then you're not going to be able to make a living. You're not going to be able to make the car payment. So it's a continuous cycle. So being able to show up for work.
Have to pay on it.
Exactly.
Even though you've lost a car, there's what's called the deficiency judgment, meaning you have to make payments on a car you don't even have anymore. That's not a particularly good deal.
No, not at all. And so when you were talking about the leasing, my ears perked up there because I know for entrepreneurs, and we always have to make the disclaimer that I am not a CPA, so consult a tax professional on this. But I know there are some benefits on the tax side to leasing, and so my ears kind of perked up for that.
Well, certainly, if it's for business expenses, that's going to be a deductible. The lease cost would be deductible.
Right.
And certainly any of the costs, just keep track of your mileage. If you're making trips for business purposes and you keep good track of it, that's completely deductible expense as well. So, yes, definitely tax benefits if you use the car for business purposes.
As a business owner, there are some advantages to taking a look at that, at least comparing it to buying versus leasing and take a look there. Now, you have really written kind of extensively on paying your mortgage early or strategies. Right. Can you dive into that and kind of give us some tips on that?
So this is what's called the mortgage optimization strategy. And just generically, what it can do is literally you can pay off a 30-year mortgage in about 5 to 7 years, something like that, on your existing level of income. This is something most banks will never tell you about because they love the current system where you pay. When you have a 30-year mortgage, Chris, all the interest is front-end loaded. The first 10 to 15 years, you're paying very, very little principal and mostly interest. So after, say, 15 years, you may have paid 10% of the principal of a mortgage, something like that. And then if you refinance, you start a new 30-year clock all over again with all the interest up front. Even though you might get a lower rate, all the interest you just paid for the last few years was thrown away, right? So that's the traditional system. And then what the bank wants you to do is not only pay interest up front, but then they want you to keep your money sitting in a checking or savings account earning zero. So the current system works very well for the banks. Okay, I want a system that works for the consumers and the borrowers in a much better way. And that's what's this optimization. So here's how it works briefly. You use a home equity line of credit, what's called the HELOC, H-E-L-O-C, which is a liquid line against your house. You can put money in, you can take it out whenever you like with no penalties whatsoever. You can write checks on it and so on. You keep your income, which is normally sitting in your checking account, in your HELOC. And that any money you put in there is pushing down the balance on which you owe money. Right? The HELOCs are based on what's called average daily balance, how much do you owe today. So just to make a very simple example, say you had a $50,000 HELOC, you put $1,000 into it from your paycheck, you now owe $49,000 instead of $50,000. So you're paying interest on a lower balance. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Keep going on this. I'm following you.
Okay. So you're getting that. So all the income you've got, whether it be salary, from dividends, from interest, whatever it may be, You keep that money flowing into the HELOC. You're pushing down your balance every day. Your payment is going down because you owe less interest on less principal. And then your balance goes down, down, down every day. One day during the month, it goes up when you pay your bills. Consolidate all your bills onto one credit card, on which I hope you get frequent flyer miles, by the way, and then you pay your bill, so your balance goes up on that day, but the rest of the month you're making progress on your principal and that HELOC being paid down, you see? There's actually a free website that people can kind of model this for themselves generically. It's called truthinequity.com. And what they do, you put in what's called a personal profile, your mortgage, your house value, your income, your expenses, and they say, based on what you're doing today, it's going to take you 28 years to pay off your mortgage. With the numbers you just gave us, it'll be 5.6 years, whatever it comes out to be. And then they show you step by step how to do it. So I've just saved your listeners 25 years off their mortgage and literally tens of thousands of dollars in needless interest. And the bank will never tell you about.
So I definitely I am following you, and I understand this. I actually do a presentation very similar to this, but I know a lot of times when people hear it the first time around, it's not intuitive. And you gave us a website, which is www.truthinequity.com. So I would push people there to kind of go back and see it, because I think when they hear, now wait, you're taking a HELOC to pay down your mortgage, you're taking a mortgage, but what you're saying, one of the key points to this is making additional payments right at the beginning of the mortgage saves you thousands of dollars over time. And so where somebody would hear that word HELOC and they say, well, you're taking another loan to do that, I would encourage them to go to that website. It's definitely worth taking a look at, because when you sit down and run the numbers, there's a pretty good argument for that as an option.
And this is very different. What a lot of people hear about this, as far as paying off their mortgage faster, is biweekly payments.
Right,
okay?
Right.
Well, that's nice. That'll cut maybe 2 or 3 years off your mortgage. This is 25 years, okay? So it's a completely different league. Because what you're doing when you do biweekly is you're making a payment every other week, meaning you pay 26 payments in the year, which like you're paying 13 months instead of 12 months. So, yes, that'll help a little bit, but it hardly makes a dent compared to this strategy, because all your money, see, the money you normally have sitting in the checking account earning nothing for you is now pushing down your balance every day. So it takes a bit of a mind twist, I agree, but the payoff, can you imagine, say you have a couple that's 30. Can you imagine them paying their mortgage off at 35 instead of 60? What a difference in their lives. And then, I mean, you're the investment guy. Once they've paid that off, I say keep making the mortgage payment to yourself in investing it. You know, IRAs, 401ks, mutual funds, whatever it may be. Have your money growing for you instead of the bank. What a difference in people's lives that would make.
Freeing up that income there, absolutely. Well, we're bumping towards the end of the show. We've got about 5 minutes left here, but another area that you talk about that is directly related to this has to do with credit card debts, kind of getting... Sure. Can you tell us a little bit about your take on credit cards?
We have over $1 trillion in credit card debt outstanding right now, all-time record high. People are paying very, very high interest rates, 13, 15, if you're late, 30% interest. So several things you can do. First of all, you can get lower interest credit cards. You do not have to be putting up with these ridiculously high rates. A free, generic website to help people find the best deals is guidetocreditcard.com. And that is one state in the union, not far from where you are, that offers the lowest interest anywhere in the country. Do you know which state that is, Chris?
No, which state is it?
Arkansas.
Really?
Yeah, they have usury ceilings left over from the Depression.
Wow. They
cannot charge more than 5% over the prime rate. The prime rate today is 4.25%, so they can't charge more than 9.25% today. So the rates they offer like 6, 7, 8%, typically long term. And you don't have to be from Arkansas. You don't have to go to Arkansas. You can do it all online and get the lowest interest credit cards all the time. You can also get frequent flyer miles if there's airlines you want. You can get Disney points. You can get GM points. You can get all kinds. You can get rebates. There's a lot of different cards out there, so get them.
Well, that's a surprise. I wasn't aware about Arkansas, and that's credit cards are huge. People have so much debt and just the
Right.
the weight that's left off of their shoulders when they're able to get that paid off. As we approach the end of the show there, for listeners who are in their car right now, Jordan, can you give us the website to find to if they want to find out more about you? What is the best
Sure.
website for them to go
My
to?
website is moneyanswers.com.
Mm-hmm.
I'm America's Money Answers man. And on moneyanswers.com, there's all kinds of resources and videos and links and blogs and all kinds of stuff. I love to help people with all aspects of their personal finance. And just look at what we've talked about in the last half hour or so. We've talked about ways to pay your mortgage off 25 years faster than you ever thought possible. We've talked about ways of getting your credit card under control, ways of getting your student loans under control. These are things most people don't know about. Unfortunately, there's a lot of financial illiteracy in this country, and the two of us are hopefully working together here to make that a little bit better. And I do love to answer people's emails as well. I get them all the time at moneyanswers.com.
Absolutely. Well, with 40 years of experience of doing this and the Money Answers website, a half hour went by very, very quick. We're going to have you on here again. Hopefully, hopefully with less of a soundtrack in the background at the beginning. But Jordan,
that's okay. I've never done a show to hip hop before. That was new for me.
That's a first for me as well. So, well, Jordan, thank you so much for joining us this weekend, and you have a great one.
All right. Thanks so much, Chris. Appreciate it.
And you have been listening to KPFD Houston.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of Money Matters Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, visit us on the web at www.moneymatterspodcast.com. Drop us a line on SpeakPipe on the right-hand corner. It will receive any voicemails, questions, thoughts, concerns that you have about the show. In addition to this, we recently launched a Patreon campaign. Click on the Donate Now tab to hit the tip jar and find out what Patreon's campaign is all about.